Throughout the years in the show, Paul's guests have given advice on best practices, finding what motivates you, the best way to treat yourselves and your clients, how to use technology to your advantage, and so much more. But the one unyielding component inherent in all of Paul's most successful guests is one that, in theory, sounds incredibly simple, but as I'm sure everyone listening can attest to, is anything but. And that component is that the key to success is to work hard every day. In this episode, we'll go back and listen to a few of Paul's guests: Norman Leslie, Brian Ward, Edward Alferoff, and Art Gallant, who have made some great points about the importance of working hard every day. This is Paul Blanco's Small Steps, Big Wins. Financial Services Executive and Special Care Planner at Barnum Financial Group, Norman Leslie.
It was an older gentleman, Frank Giannini. Earlier in the career, there are some guys who took me under their wings. And Frank said to me, Norm, the only place you'll find success before work is in the dictionary. And
I never heard that one before.
Yes. And then I read something else that said, success is the natural consequence of consistently applying basic fundamentals. So I decided that, hey, if you want to be successful, which is appropriately titled Small Steps, Big Win, that's exactly what I had to do. I had to put in the effort every day without failure. And 30 years after, I am here.
It's amazing. So let's talk about that, though. Think back for a minute, and we'll get into present day later on. But if you think back, were there some challenges and obstacles you hit early career that you had to fight through to make, mentally to continue on the journey?
There were many challenges. To begin with, we had to call from the phone book. And we had what we called the one-card system back in the days.
Yes.
And you'd have to make like 10 calls to connect with one person or two. It was a real challenge. And oftentimes you book the appointment. That was before cell phone as you know it now. You'd book the appointment, they would call to cancel or they would not cancel. You show up after driving 30 minutes, 40 minutes to the house and they were not there. So you just had to be disciplined. And as you always say, Paul, as my boss at the time and now, you always say, Norman, it's a numbers game. Yep. Every time you get a no, you're one step closer to the next yes. So you just kept on going, kept on grinding.
But talk about the mental part of that. So you show up at someone's home. Let's say it was 30 minutes away. Mm-hmm. They're not there. You're maybe not having a great week, maybe questioning your journey. How did you get past that?
As I said again, by having conversation with other representatives that were in the business 10, 15, 20 years ahead of me. If others have done it, you can do it as well. Yeah. And they've shared with me that they have had similar stories and they were using the rate card book many years. And to me, that was just unfathomable. So I'm saying if they did it, having to work with that system. My system is now more advanced. Yes, there are going to be challenges, but you have to stay the course.
Well, it's interesting you said that. I'm laughing to myself because I only came in the business 3 years before you.
Yes.
But my first month, I learned how to use a rate book. And then literally we got computerized illustrations like a month after I started. So you almost were on the rate card stuff then. Well, I love that. And I think that too many advisors come in the industry mm-hmm. and you want to emulate people that are successful. You want to understand how they got there. And I always teach that one of the things that you need to learn in this industry or in life as an entrepreneur is to be super curious. So you didn't even realize how curious you were because you were asking all these questions of the veterans. So many of the people that are listening in today that are advisors that are at different points of their career go to people that have ahead of you in the journey, like Norman did. And that's very helpful because they could help you understand, especially if it's in the same industry, what it took to get there. Another thing is I use, as you know, Norman, a lot of dadisms. And my dad, to sum up what you said, he always told me, he said, listen, everyone puts their pants on the same way you do, one leg at a time. Mm-hmm. So if they can do it, why not you? So I appreciate that. What's a normal day look like? What's a normal month look like today?
A normal month for me is kind of similar month by month, but somewhat different. I direct my life to a large extent, and then the other part of my life is directed by my calendar. Generally, there's a mix between client meetings, like annual reviews, new clients, teaching, and obviously I block some time out for rest, relaxation, and for reading, and also to spend time with family.
Nice.
Because that's critically important.
So you say pretty balanced now.
Yes. I'm pretty balanced. Thankfully, I am able to do that now because I put the work in at the beginning.
You have so much wisdom. And if I was brand new in the industry today, what would some of the advice you would give them right now?
Some of the advice I would give them right now is the first thing I would tell them is, one, to become a student of the business. You have to make each day a learning experience. You have to do that, one. Two, it's important for you to have good work ethics. It's critically important. I'm going to be a little bit philosophical before I get into...
No, great.
As Napoleon Hill said in Think and Grow Rich, book that you cause us to read. He interviewed quite a number of individuals, but he said of the top individuals, the most successful individuals, there were 3 character traits between them. That was enthusiasm, definiteness of purpose, and concentration of effort. If you come into this business, you have to be sure about yourself. You have to know what you want and be focused on what you're doing. That's what I'll say about that. And then designations, critically important, because the business now is more complex than it was 20, 30 years ago.
Way more.
And you need that body of knowledge in order for you to successfully navigate this increasingly complex field of endeavor.
Well, and I want to make a point on that. Anyone that's coming new into this business, or anyone that's 2 years in already or 5 years in, you didn't do that. Just commit to once a quarter. Mm-hmm. You don't have to get your designation tomorrow. But if you do 10 straight quarters, you'll have 3 designations. And you'll have so much knowledge and more confidence, as we talked about earlier in the show.
But that's a strategy I use, thanks to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's small steps, big wins.
Absolutely.
Wealth Management Advisor at Barnum Financial Group, Brian Ward.
I know that in your practice, there was a bunch of things that you did that you weren't doing. And I'll use Transition Solutions as an example. You spent 9 years, you were in the industry for, say, 15, 20 years. And you dove right in and said, I'm going to do these calls. I'm going to learn this program from the bottom up, which many people that had your experience wouldn't do that. So why did you do that? And how did that help you?
Yeah, so the programs that were available in the firm have been instrumental in the growth, right? Previously, we were, referral only, one person to the next, and that limited the, let's say, addressable market, right? Plugging into the national partnerships the firm has here and, being able to educate an audience, for example, within Plan Smart, and having, national engagements with large employers with transitions, right? There was a huge opportunity to now take what we had learned, what we knew we could offer and execute on, and really, offer it to a much larger audience. And so, not having been in those roles before, I decided it'd be very helpful if I was going to grow a team per the vision you laid out for me personally, that I would know what that day to day looked like so that I could help develop the people that would be in those seats over time. With PlanSmart, I sat in on presentations, took copious notes, practiced. Now educating the workforces there myself, we have a high engagement level. People are finding the value in what we're delivering. And it's really created a lot of opportunity for us to help improve people's situations.
It's amazing. And for the audience that doesn't know what PlanSmart is PlanSmart is a program here where we go to Fortune 5,000 companies where we're teaching financial education in the workplace. And, we partnered Brian up pretty quickly with some people, and that's where he got to that point and learned. And now he's running a lot of that on his own now too.
Yeah. And that's been fantastic. I mean, you have like turning points in the career. I would say coming to Barnum is a turning point, clearly. You also have these other wins that provide like wind in the sails, right? And every time you do a presentation, you're getting feedback. Did you find it helpful? Would you like to have a conversation, right? People are sending us pictures of themselves on fishing trips on Global Relay. Of course, it's text message on Global Relay. Okay. It's not in case Debbie's listening. There's these little wins that aren't always, you're adding a client. It's seeing that the clients are viewing you as a real partner in what you're doing. And that's really part of the fulfilling, part of the job we do.
Yeah. And so just to give, how many of those are you working on right now? And what's that look like on a day to day? You teach every week? Do you teach every couple of weeks?
I would say on average, we're probably teaching about 7 or 8 sessions a month. Okay. Some months it's less, some are more intensive, depending on the seasonality of the calendar. There's a award-winning RetireWise program that we're offering. Some employers want to do it once in the fall, once in the spring. That's 4 consecutive weeks. So there's some seasonality to it. The summer's a little lighter, with people taking time off. HR talks to us. They talk to the team here in the firm. They really want to maximize the attendance, right? They see it as a true value add to what they're doing for, retention and recruiting. And they want the population within the organization to take full advantage.
Yeah. And listen, Brian, I think that timing's everything in life, right? You came here and not only did you learn the program, but you talked about COVID before. And I always say that there was so much bad that came of COVID, but there was a lot of good. And now instead of doing this program regionally at a company where you would take the train into New York City and teach to 30, 40 people, now you're able to sit in your office in Shelton, do it virtually, and speak to hundreds of people throughout the whole country. Has that changed the dynamics for you in terms of people being national versus local?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the day to day has changed dramatically. I used to put something like 40,000 miles a year on my car, driving to Boston, taking the train, you're driving to every meeting, right? The efficiency that's been created. And I like to think that, it's not something that we've imposed on the population that we're serving, right? It's something that we have clients who live 10 minutes away from the office. They want to Zoom just in case there's an accident on the highway and they get stuck, right? Yeah. So it's really changed the dynamic between what we're able to do, right? We're able to see so many more people and have so many more meaningful conversations throughout each day. And that's so different from how it was, 7, 8 years ago, where mostly everything was in person. And I remember, Demolition Man, for anyone who's older, right? I'm 41. It's, 30 years ago, this movie came out. There's a scene where they're in a conference room and there's these tablets of people sitting at like seats at the table. And it was so futuristic and far out there. And now it's just reality, right? So you're not in person, but you're not losing 100% of being with that person. And I think that really helps solidify the relationship, which is ultimately what we're trying to build with people.
Certified financial planner professional and financial services executive, Art Gallant.
Zoom has been a huge gift to us in this industry. Has that impacted you a lot since COVID happened, or no?
Yeah, our business schedule changed dramatically after COVID. Okay. So we were working long days prior to COVID, 5 days a week, meeting people after hours, 4 days a week at least. And everybody went to Zoom. during COVID, right? Like every other business meeting. And then after COVID, when we came back into the office and were willing to meet people in person, I'd say probably somewhere between, 30 to 50% stayed on Zoom. And many of those folks, whether they were on Zoom or in person, are requesting daytime meetings and not those late night meetings anymore. So I feel like a lot of people change their schedule to do things during the day as opposed to after hours, whether it's through Zoom or maybe just taking the time off because they're working from home or whatever the reason may be. Yeah. So we changed our schedule to accommodate that. And it's also given us a little more flexibility, whether it's work from home 1 or 2 days a week or just not be in the office till 8 at night, which has been great.
Yeah. And it's interesting that, that happened. And like I said, there's a lot of good that came of it. And I think you're interesting when you said 50%, let's just assume, and you're still seeing 50% coming into the office, where most advisors are almost at 90% Zoom. So you guys have been able to juggle some because of geography. I think that's played, to you. So yeah, it's interesting because I know now, obviously, not every client that you meet with, even if you like them and they like you, come on as clients. But I would love to understand, what was the mindset early career when you had some of that? Did it affect you really badly when you had some of that client that everything went great?
Yeah,
it did. How did it affect you?
Well, I imagine a lot of people have that scenario where you worked hard to try to get this prospect and turn them into a client, and you're confident that that's going to happen.
Correct.
And then they come back and say, oh, no, I went with somebody else. And you can't understand why, at least for me, right? I couldn't understand why they're not choosing me.
Yeah, it's hard
to be their advisor, right? And it's a little bit, self-centered to think that way.
No, but I went through the same thing.
Yeah.
I remember I learned this. I don't remember who taught it to me, but I'm a curious person. So when I went out at night and I met with a young couple, that was one of my markets. And after 2 meetings, it was never 3 because that wasn't the norm then. But after 2, you got a sale and new client and they said no. I would call the next morning. I learned this, and I would call and I would always get the wife and I'd say, hey, it's Paul Blanco. How you doing? Hey, Paul, nice to hear your voice. And I'm thinking to myself, it's not really nice to hear my voice because you said no to me just like 12 hours ago. And I'd say, hey, listen, I think you saw my passion for this career and how much I love it. And this is my future. I'm staying in this business. So I just have one question. I feel like we hit it off. I did everything. I thought you guys were on board and you decided not to go with me. Can you just coach me on what I could have done differently? And probably 6 times I would end up getting that client in a week or 2. 4 times they would say, they wouldn't even give me an answer. It may have been just procrastination. I would convince myself it was that. But that's really good. And I'm glad that, and I think athletics plays into that because you don't always succeed in athletics. So.
Well, again, going back to that mentality of, football player, baseball player, whatever it is that you're into, there's going to be obstacles that you'll have to overcome.
Correct.
And in business and in life, you're given those obstacles. And I really feel that's why, those athletics translate into
it stays in your DNA.
Yeah, for sure. You're just pushing through.
Yep.
Pushing through.
Yeah, because it's just an obstacle that you have a choice to decide what you want to do with it.
Co-founder and senior partner of Vital Planning Group, Edward Alfaroff.
Joe, says to me, hey, would you consider a career in financial services? And I said, well, I don't really know what that is or how it works. So he kind of explained it to me and, he thought it would be a good path for me. And I really wasn't sure. And I remember saying to Joe, hey, Joe, I'm kind of accustomed to earning money and an income. And my understanding of how financial services works is that you're kind of building it from zero, right? It's commission, it's fees, it's this, it's that. And he's like, oh, you don't have to worry about that. We're going to take care of all of that for you. And I'm like, well, what do you mean? Don't I need to find clients? And he said, oh, yeah, no, we're going to give you clients. I said, really? I'm like, sign me up. So I studied for my exams. 4 months later, I come to the office chomping at the bit, ready to go. And this guy hands me, I kid you not, a 5-year, it must have been about 5 years old, the business to business yellow pages, and basically told me to figure it out. And of course, I sat there having a panic attack. And I was like, oh, crap. I had one of those moments like, what did I get myself into? Anyway, I'm pretty logical. And so one of the things I did, which will take us, of course, into the medical career, which is something I know that you wanted to touch upon, is I found the guy who I thought was the smartest guy in the agency, but he was also very difficult to work with, and nobody wanted to work with him who was newer in the business like myself. So of course, the logical thinker in me said, well, if I work with this guy, two great things are going to come out of it. Number one, I'm going to have a market, which is medical, of course, medical and dental. And then if I can tolerate working with this guy, then it's going to be all up from here. It'll be great. Blue skies ahead. So that's what I did. I basically asked this guy to mentor me. He said, sure. I told him I would do anything and everything that I needed to do to just basically open up your playbook. And so he told me how to, basically book seminars and basically gave me the playbook for that. And I think he was kind of surprised at the results because I was kind of a quiet, shy, really unassuming kind of person. And literally like my first 2 weeks, I must have booked a couple of dozen workshops, probably more than he thought I was doing, more than he could probably handle. So I worked with this guy for about a year and just watched him. He was like watching great theater. And he used to always say to me that, basically giving a presentation was like great theater, essentially, that even the understudy should be able to pick it up. So, I never forgot that. And then a year came to pass and I decided I was going to make a move from the agency because this guy was super difficult to work with. And so I made a move. And so I thought, I've seen this guy present for a year. I ought to be able to do this. And so I remember booking my first workshop for myself, standing in the middle of a room of about 30 physicians. I'm like seeing white spots. I'm sweating profusely. I'm wearing like the cheapest suit you can imagine. And I had to take a time out about 2 minutes. And I'm like, look, I know I look crazy up here. I'm like sweating profusely. I'm wearing a cheap suit or whatever. I was very self-deprecating. And I said, but I promise you, I know my stuff. And I said, I think at the end of the day, that's probably all that matters to you guys. If you guys give me a chance and just hear me out, this is actually the first time I'm doing this. I said, I thought this was going to be easy. I watched somebody else do this for a year. It seemed easy. And here I am. And I'm just nervous as all hell. So that was kind of my starting point. And it was kind of funny because I think I had my Rudy moment. They all got behind me and, let their guard down. And it was from that point on, it was perfect. It was great. And that's what I kept doing. I kept booking myself workshops, doing the workshops. And to be very honest with you, I was super terrible at it, but I was willing to put myself out there and to keep trying and failing and stumbling and anything. And I was open to it all because I knew that for me, I had burned the boats, so to speak. I was never going to go back to advertising. I never wanted to. It was no interest of mine. And I knew that if I can only last and had the right mindset, that I could basically make this career work. And so that's what I did, basically. And I surprised myself. So.
I love it. I really love it. I love that the burn the boat thing is amazing. But, I think putting yourself out there and being vulnerable enough to say what you said to that group, which gave you the Rudy moment, I think was maybe it wasn't planned, but it was a very good tactic that you had. I want to go a little deeper on this because I think that, obviously you found a market that he introduced you to, the medical dental market, but the seminars that you were booking was really just filling the top of the funnel, meaning it's great to be an educator and get in front of these people, but the follow-up afterwards was where the real rubber met the road. You had 30 people at the first one. Did you learn like the process of the follow-up from him? And how did you do on that part? Because listen, if you do the workshops and you book 6 a week, but you don't make any new clients, then, your business really doesn't grow. So why don't you tell us a little more about that?
Yeah, I found, Paul, that, being self-deprecating early on, just being very humble always worked for me really well. My father was very much like that. And so what I would do basically is when I left my first gig, I kid you not, I had like 2 binders full of people who had attended these workshops that this other person had given that first year. And I used to make jokes out of it. They'd be like, which one are you? Are you the older gentleman, the guy who was a little bit snooty or what have you? And I'd be like, no, I was the younger, more good looking guy, right? The guy who didn't really speak all that much, but I have a lot to say now. So essentially, it was a lot of grinding, basically, a lot of working nights, until 9 o'clock, as late as I can call them. Even calling on weekends, I would do that. And I was always just super nice, super kind. I would kill them with kindness. And you're right. It wasn't, was I getting the response rate that I wanted initially? No. But my conversion rate was pretty good because I had had a year under my belt of learning the market, understanding the languaging that would resonate with them, like their student loans, or this one was in residency, or this one was in fellowship. You get to know all of these things and you can kind of speak to them on a different level where they know that you understand their needs. And then, of course, that was my point of entree into learning about disability. It's a great market for selling insurance. And of course, starting out in an insurance company, it was perfect. It actually helped me to survive in the business. The early years are survival. So
yeah, but you had the right attitude. Like, if I can get here and just keep learning and stay alive in the business, then I know it's my career, and you burn the boats, which is pretty cool. So you've scaled your team, but now when I look at you, you're clipping at that, 20, 30% growth each year, and you continue to reinvent yourself. Like, really, you took on the investment business yourself and really took the time to get your designation and learn in that space. Why don't you talk about the momentum you have and how you're able to, continue to grow, and how you're looking at the future? I'd love you to share some of that.
Yeah, I mean, it's, for me personally, it's always about wanting to learn and to get better every day in every way that I possibly can, personally and professionally. I've gone back and even reread books on investing in estate. I'm reading an estate planning book right now, just because I want for my knowledge to become so seamless that, it just almost becomes like an afterthought. But I do that even with my communication skills. It's something that I work very hard on. And it's exciting for me too, because there's always room for improvement. You're never going to hit a level of perfection. And I think it's always about just making progress and moving that ball forward. So I'm excited for the business. I've seen this business transform over a number of years. Obviously, me being more insurance focused, and now me being a little bit more of a coach, consultant, a teammate, a mentor. That's very, very exciting for me. And it's a way for me to provide contribution to not only clients, but even younger advisors at Barnum. Any possible way that I can give back and contribute to the culture, I'm always down with. So I love it because there's no day is ever the same, and they're all extremely interesting to me. And there's always something to learn and always something to get better at. And I think that you're always well served if you're always curious and always want to get better. And if you have that attitude, most things will work out in life if you're very passionate about what you do. And I love what I do because I get to serve people, and I'm very passionate about that. But in serving people, I'll take that beyond the professional. It's like my kids, my family. It's anyone that I encounter in a given day. I always try to offer up a word of encouragement or what have you.
Well, I love that. And I guess the question is as you've grown in this career, in the beginning, you're fighting to just stay alive, as you said earlier, but is it easier to focus for you now based on all the things you've put into place for yourself to stay focused and to stack those good days on top of each other?
It definitely gets easier. This business is such a grind. And when you're just trying to survive and pay your bills, that could be so stressful. So, it's easier now for sure, which gives me peace of mind, which gives me the ability to be a lot more focused on the things that I want to improve at. So yes, it is easier in a manner of speaking, but it's not easier in some respects because obviously with team, I have to be a very thoughtful person, collaborative, a leader, even to the agency at large or to clients or what have you. But again, that just kind of, makes it very exciting for me. So yeah, I mean, I think in a manner of speaking, just the long and short is that it is a little bit easier, but it will never be easy if you aspire to greater things. And I'm not even talking about financial rewards only, Paul. It's the idea that you can evolve to become the best version of yourself every day. And so that's something that I strive for. So I love where I'm at now, and I'm super excited for where I'm going.
Thank you for listening to Small Steps, Big Wins. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All opinions expressed by the program participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions their respective parent companies or affiliates or the companies with which the program participants are affiliated. Investments or strategies mentioned in this program may not be suitable for you, and you should make your own independent decision regarding them. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You should strongly consider seeking advice from your own investment advisor. Securities and investment advisory services offered through qualified registered representatives of MML Investor Services, LLC. Member SIPC, 6 Corporate Drive, Shelton, Connecticut, 06484. Telephone number 203-513-6000.